last week there was a question about menopause, and I'm not an expert in menopause, but I did do just a little research and came up with, there was a question, and it says, what can a man do while his wife is going through menopause? The answer was, keep busy. If you're handy with tools, you can finish the basement, and when you're done, you'll have a place to live. So that's all I got. That's a whole other topic all by itself. I hear a lot of deep voice laughing, but not higher voice laughing. Okay. Anyway, and there's another joke that I won't share with you because I've been advised not to. So we'll just leave it right there. That's why we have wives, to censor our behavior, right? Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad to be back again and to share another portion of this transition that we're going through. And remember, we are on the other side of leave and cleave, right? We were pretty excited about that when it was our turn to leave and cleave, but now it's the other side of that, and it's not so easy. One of the things I'm going to talk about is the two main things we have to do a shift in how we think about our kids and how we communicate with them. Now, what I'm going to talk about is a lot of just semantics, but semantics is everything to them. To us, it's like, well, isn't that the same thing? Yes, but it just goes across in a whole different way when they hear you say it differently. So we're going to look at 5 areas, 5 tools that we need to make some shifts. And and the main shift that we're making is we're stop parenting. Your job is done. It's over. It's what it is. It's like the Wright brothers. They send that plane. I mean, there's no more messing with the engine. It's going to be doing all this kind of stuff as it goes, right? We're just going, oh man, don't crash. But you don't want to be on the plane, trying to still work on it. We're beyond that. Now, while I say that, we still work on it. So we need to stop that because it makes them crazy. And it makes you crazy. So how do you stop that? First, you got to find out what you're doing that still wants to parent. So let's jump in. 5 tools making the transition. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a little Q&A as we go along. So with each one of these tools, I'm going to stop and just entertain some questions, and then we'll go to the next one as opposed to wait to the very end. So the first shift, the first transition we make is moving from being a director to being an advisor. Okay? We've been directing their lives all their life, right? Do this, get up, don't get up. I mean, do your chores. All these things are happening, and we're just directing their lives. And when they're young, it's appropriate. But as an adult, it's not appropriate, and they resent it. And so you want to go and move from being a director to being an advisor. Now, an advisor gives advice. Here's the key. When you're asked for it. Okay? The absolute key. Remember I said last week that unsolicited advice is usually rejected. So you need to ask for it. Or you need to wait for it. Now, people say, well, great, perfect. I'm going to wait to be invited. Well, I could grow old and die before that happens. Well, no, you don't have to wait and grow old and die. You can create an invitation. Okay? And so when you see your kids doing something and you feel like you want to give some advice or parenting, actually advice without asking for is kind of parenting, isn't it? It's kind of what that is. So what you do is you throw something out like, hey, listen, I got some ideas about how, I was at a dinner, our dinner table, right? And they're talking about relationships. I'm thinking, hello? Free advice here. I mean, is anybody going to ask me for anything here? And you know what they say about a prophet in his own home, right? So what do? I sit there and let them just, go over the cliff. I say, hey, listen, you guys, some pretty tough stuff you guys are talking about. I got some ideas if anybody's interested, but, it looks like you guys are doing it pretty well. Yeah, we got this, Okay. And that's usually the answer you'll get after you throw that invitation out. They'll just say, yeah, no, it's okay. And then usually, often, 2-3 days later, go, hey, you said you had what was that about? Oh. And now I got my invitation. Now I can say what I was going to say that would have been rejected. Now I can say it, and at least they'll think about it. So it's really important to get that invitation. Now, there's 2 things our young adults want, and that is autonomy and doing the right thing. Both of these things they want to do. Unfortunately, the way we interact with them makes them have to choose between the two. They can't have both. They'd like to have both, but our interaction forces them to choose. Now, of these two, autonomy and doing the right thing, which one do you think for most kids is the most important? Autonomy. Now think about it. If your child would doing the right thing, that is also a problem, because they're going to grow up going, what do you think I should do? Okay, how about you? I mean, they're not going to be assertive, because it's not important about being autonomous. I just want to do the right thing, and that you can overdo that. You may have some kids who are like, no, you'll make a few mistakes. It's okay. You don't need to have my advice all the time. I mean, they're asking you for everything. And you say, no, I think I'll let you figure this one out on your own. So both are important. Now, here's how we make them have to choose. There's 5 things we parents want to make sure our kids aren't doing. What are they? Just throw some things out. No drugs. Okay. What else? Yes. What else? Crime. Yes. Exactly. No felonies. Yes. Good. What else?
Asking for money.
Asking for money. Do I hear an amen on that? And what else?
Walking away from the Lord.
Walking away from the Lord. Okay. So those are just some, right? What are kids doing? Yeah. Surprise, surprise. Why? Because when you tell them to do these things, now they got a problem. I mean, those sound pretty good. I like those things you said. But if I do them, then I lose what? Yeah. So, and I'm at college and somebody says, hey, you want to smoke a joint? No. I mean, my parents would not be happy with that, if I'm doing drugs. Dude, are you serious? Your parents? You're in college. I mean, that just wouldn't work. That's not enough strength to say, no, thank you. I need to be autonomous, say, you know what? That's not my deal. I'm going to pass on that. Not because my parents told me to, but because I've determined that that's important for me. Okay. But the moment we tell them to do these things, now they got a choice. Now they have to make a decision. Okay. There was a time, my son just celebrated his 11th wedding anniversary. Okay. Yesterday. But, gosh, when he was 17 and a half years old, he came to my office. It was 11:30 at night. Glory was asleep. He never comes in my office. And he never sits down in my office. He comes in, sits down, and says, hey, Dad, how old were you when you got married? I'm thinking, like, what kind of question is that? And I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to tell you about your mother because she just turned 19. That's not good. Let's not lead with that. We'll lead with me, which is I was 23. I say, why? He says, well, and he was dating a girl that was a year and a half older than him. Nice girl, liked her. But, so I'm thinking, okay, where are we going with this? And he says, well, we're thinking about maybe eloping. Right, Mr. Marriage and Family Counselor here, right? What was going through my mind? I mean, envision my hand around his neck, holding him as his feet are dangling, going, "Are you out of your mind? What are you thinking?" Right? And that would have been a pretty directive response, right? But I didn't want to set that up because kids love a cause. Tell me what not to do, please. Give me a reason. Give me a cause. I'm bored. I got time on my hands. Give me a reason to do something. I mean, tell me no, and then I'm off. So I didn't want to set up a cause here, and my response was moving into an advisor. Okay, and it was one of those fluke moments where I don't know how I came up with that, but I'm just glad I did. And it was still rolling the dice because there was no sure way this was going to play out the way I hoped. And I said, wow, you must really love her a lot. Yeah, I love her a lot. I go, well, and if you've been in my Who's in the Driver's Seat, you'll also know about this technique, which is called drop and run, which is you don't sit there and have a conversation. You just leave your piece and get out. Okay? Because if you have too much of a conversation, then it becomes about you, not about the message. Okay? So you want to drop your point and get out. So I said, wow, you must really love her. Yeah, I love her. I go, well, hey, Jordan, you know what? You're almost 17, you're almost 18. You can do what you want. And that's the truth, right? I was just speaking the truth. He's going, yeah, that's right. I can do whatever I want. And I said, but you know what? and she's a nice girl, but you have to, if you're going to make a decision like that, you just need to know that there's two kinds of marriages. Two kinds of marriages? Yeah. There's these really, really long ones, and then there's these really, really short ones. And what you're talking about tend to be in the short one, but dang, look at time. It's getting late. I got to get to bed. I'm out of there. Seriously. And he'd sit in my office, the light's still on, and I'm gone. And all he was left with was that little comment. I didn't want to have a debate. I didn't want to have a discussion. I didn't want any of that. I just wanted him to think about that. Okay? And the end of that story is he just celebrated his 11-year anniversary with that gal. But they did wait. They waited, gosh, probably 4 or 5 years. So good. So there's an opportunity where you have I had lots of advice, man. Just set me loose. But I refrained from moving into being a director. Now, in counseling, I'm in a situation where I give advice all the time, right? And one of the things that usually happen is one of the spouses goes, I've been telling him that for 10 years. And you tell him, and now he finally does it. I go, yeah, that's because I got something you don't have. What, I have to get a PhD for him to listen to me? Are you serious? I go, no. I go, what do you have that I don't have? I go, I have an invitation. He asked me. Did he ever ask you? No. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work with your kids. It doesn't work with your spouse. You need to get the invitation. And it really doesn't work with guys. We don't like that intrusion. Wives are not so, manly like that. Like, oh, yeah, what do you got? They're okay with that. But we guys are a little strange. Okay, so any questions about that?
I don't know I don't want to take away from the 4 of the tools, but is there any other thoughts once your kids leave and you kind of set up your own little house and dynasty the way you want it to be, it's a new phase, and then they move back in? Are you a landlord? And
we're going to talk about that. So good question, nice setup. Let's move to the next one. The next concept is shifting from submission to accountability, or from obedience to accountability. Now, I've told my kids, I say, look, you know what, you're 18 now, and I'm not going to be your parent, and you don't have to obey me, you don't have to submit to me anymore. Those days are over. Cool. Wow, that's awesome. But as long as you live in my house, then you're going to do what your mom and I do, which is we have mutual accountability. Oh, okay. What's that? Well, it's where we let each other know what we're doing since we live in each other's house. Okay? I don't call Jim up and say, hey, I'm going to go to the Home Depot. Are you okay with that? I mean, he doesn't live in my house. It's none of his business, okay? But in our house, yeah, we connect with each other and check in. So that's the accountability. Listen for the semantics, okay? It's all semantics. So when my son goes, who's a minor, goes somewhere, I say, hey, where are you going? When are you going to be back? How can I reach you? And what are you doing? And just some more questions like that, right? At my office, when I go to lunch with somebody, guess what my secretary says? Where are you going? When are you going to be back? How can I reach you? And more questions. So why don't I fire my secretary for treating me like a kid? Because she's not parenting me, right? That's accountability. I may need to reach you. Something may happen. How do I get a hold of you? I get that. I'm not offended by that. Now, she may have a parental tone. We may have a little conversation, okay? But the question in themselves, and that's important, tone is important, okay? So as you move into this adult living in your home, then you have this mutual accountability. So then you ask those questions. And then it's weird. They'll go, okay, well, I'm going, and they start telling you. Because it's not parental. And you're not directing them. You told them that we're on the same plane here like everybody else, and anybody else who lives here is going to go through the same deal. It's just the way it is. Okay? So kids will be more responsive when you treat them like adults. And it's really, and these words I'm using are also to help you think. Would a director, would an advisor do that? Would accountability be asking it in that way? I mean, it's a way of trying to make sure that you're not parenting them, but relating to them. They'll stick around if you do that. They'll give you trouble if you don't. Any questions about that transition?
So you're saying if I parent them when they come back, they'll leave?
Maybe. No, that's fair. That's a fair question. Maybe. But if you're not doing these other things, no. They'll put up with that. They'll not be happy. They'll make sure you know they're not happy. But they'll stick around. Okay? They'll stick around. Any other questions about that transition?
I think it's tough for those of us who have college-age students who go back and forth between.
Yes.
Complete freedom, and it's this constant thing. It's not it's just when you're at my house, you come in and tell me when you're home. I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I still want to know you're at home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my kids are pretty good about it. But my daughter was home with her boyfriend, and she said, "I still have to tell you he's with me. I'm okay."
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
I still need to know you're at home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would expect that of anyone.
We'll hit that on in another one. But the thing that I'm hearing there, it's just you want to make sure how much.
Right.
Because if it's too much, then it's like, I'll wait until I get to the next one. But it's how much.
Just used to not, they're used to living in a family.
The reality is that wherever you go to live, there will be rules.
Right.
Okay? There's going to be rules. You got your roommate rules. You got your dorm rules. There's going to be rules. So if you're trying to find no rules, then get a tent. Go to the park. And even there, you're going to be woken up in the middle of the night and say, hey, get out of here. Okay? So, there's going to be rules. So get used to that. If you think I'm free and I'm an adult now, well, no. Wake up, smell the coffee, welcome to my world. That's just how it works. And it takes them a little while because they had this fantasy that, man, when I'm 18, I'm free. I go, dude, you're not free until you start buying your own toilet paper. Then you start thinking about being free. Okay? All right? Okay. You also want to move from a have-to mentality to a want-to mentality. Now, for all their years, they've had to live with you. They didn't have any choices. They didn't have any money. Okay? They have to live with you. They have to do what you tell them. Now, as an adult, they don't have to. Okay? And moving away from the parenting, being over them thing to having a relationship with your kids. If you want to have a relationship with you, it's going to be on a want-to basis, not a have-to basis. Some of you, just past Christmas, I got to go see my parent. Oh, man, for Christmas. I have to go. I don't want to go. And some of you didn't go. Send a card. I ain't going. Because they may have not made that transition with you. For many years, when I would go visit my parents, it's like I lost a year of my life on the way. When I got there, I was 5 years old again. Hey, good. Did you take the trash out? Sure, I'll take the trash out. It's just like, it's just weird. And then being treated that way, who wants to go there? Go back to that. So now we're in the same situation. Are you going to have a relationship with your kids because they want to? Here's an interesting question. Would you be friends with your parents if they weren't your parents? Think about that. Would you? Okay. If my mother wasn't my mother, she'd be my friend. One of my better friends. Okay? She's a neat lady. It's fun to be with her. Don't feel like a kid. It's just easy. Okay? Makes me want to. She's so easy, she got invited to a Super Bowl party, right? That's awesome. She's easy. Now let's flip it around. If your children weren't your children, would they be your friends? Not so much, maybe. Maybe these three and maybe that one not. It's interesting, right? Because as we become adults, we have relationships because we want to have relationships. We have good friends that we hang out with because it fits, it works, it's easy, it's not hard, it's not dramatic. And then we have few that we tried, it didn't work so good, so they're kind of phase out. Well, what if those people are family? What if those people are your kids? Here's the key for you guys, for us, is if you want to have a relationship because your kids want to, then you have to be wantable. And let me tell you, parenting them at this stage is not wantable. No, thank you. Not so much. I'll pass. See you in a month or so. So a lot rides on shifting the way you interact with them. Now, they are young, and so when they're in your house, they think, oh, this is mine. No. Remember, you left, you're just visiting, you know. And a good thing to do is get rid of their room when they do leave, so it's not like, hey, all right, I'm back. It's like, hey, where's my room? Well, where am I supposed to stay, you know? Good question. Let's think about that. Let's see, where do I have guests stay when they visit, you know? Right? But I want you to think that way because that's what they are. If you still treat them like kids, they'll act like kids. And you got to shift your thinking and then shift your way you communicate with them. Okay? Any questions about that? Tough stuff. I mean, it's critical, necessary, essential that we're making these shifts. Yes?
What about when they get to the age where you know they can move on to their own. They're old enough to move on, but they don't really move on, you know.
And what, like they're out of your house, but they're not doing real well?
No, they're just living in your house and they're staying there.
Why is that?
Raise the rent.
They don't want to move, you know what I mean?
Raise the rent.
I mean, my daughter's she's not at that point. I mean, I'm just curious.
Now, one thing that we do, and we're going to get to it in just a second, is how we treat them financially. Okay? I've heard so many times, how do I get my kids out of my house? They're still there. And when I start to hear what's going on, I go, man, can I move in? I mean, what a deal. They don't have a job. They don't need one. I mean, they're smart kids. You've taught them well. They're doing just fine. What do they need a job for? They got everything that money would buy. They got a house, a roof over their head. They got Wi-Fi. They got food. I mean, it's good. Life is good. So we'll get to that in just a second. Another one, from parent to landlord. Here's a good one. This is a really, we just kind of touched on it, about leaving and stuff. You want to think of yourself as not being their parent, but being their landlord. Because in essence, that's what you are. This is your house. You have an adult living in your house. Now, you're going to exchange some currency for them living in your house. It may be just cash, cold hard cash, or it may be a combo of cash and some other stuff. When I was going to Fuller Seminary, I was poor and I rented a room. I didn't even have enough to have my own apartment and not even enough to rent the room, so I made a deal with the people. They said, look, well, you pay $100 for the room and then you wash our car each Saturday and mow our lawn. I go, deal. I'm in. That's our deal, okay? A little bit of cash, a little bit of chores, and I'm good to go. It worked there because they treated me like an adult. Would it work at my home? I don't know. If they treated me like an adult, maybe. If they didn't, it would not work because I would just resent being parented. It's not about the deal. It's about being parented. Done with that. Got to let that go, okay? So you work out a deal in terms of living in your house. And, as our kids came close to 18, say, hey, listen, next year we need to talk about what your plans are. Because, are you still planning to live here, or you want to move out, or what are your thoughts? Because you're not obligated to live here anymore because you're 18, and nor are we obligated to have you live here. So let's see if we can work out a deal. And we parents love our kids, so we're going to make a good deal for them. Now it's still up to them to honor the deal, right? And so you make your rules. Now, if you don't want anybody to live, let's say you have an apartment complex, you don't want anyone to live there, what's a good way to make sure no one lives there? Yeah, have a high rent, right? So you want to find that balance where you're getting what you need and it works for them. What would happen if your rent was $10 a month? What would that apartment complex look like? I mean, oh my gosh, a lot of homeless people would be living there, right? Or near. I mean, it would not be a fun place to live. Okay? So you want to find a balance that's fair to them. And here's what, in my mind, what's fair to them. Is it preparing them for the real world? If you're charging the rent, let's say $50 a month, that is not preparing them for the real world. They're going to go from that to get an apartment. Good luck with that. Little quick story. My son, youngest, moved out. And that was after we asked him to move out. because he wasn't really doing much with his life, which is fine, but I didn't want to support that. And so we gave him plenty of notice, 6 months, because I was thinking I want to preserve my relationship, but I don't want to feel resentful toward my kids, so I need to stop this. So we did it in a very gradual way, lots of warning, and without micromanaging that process. And then he moved out, still having a good relationship. He's out for 8 months. Awesome. He lives in a little jailhouse kind of thing. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, I wouldn't want to live there, but hey, who am I to tell you how to live? So then he calls me up and says, hey, Dad, and you know the joy of having roommates, right? It's just so wonderful, right? He's selling the condo and I got to be out in 2 weeks. Perfect. Okay. Can I come home? I'll pay you. I just need 2 weeks to find another place. I said, hey, you can come for a month and it's free because it's going to take more than 2 weeks to find a place. But if you choose or can't find a place, because he was paying about $700, okay, for rent. Good for him. You come back, after a month, you pay me $400 for rent. He's thinking, cool, I was paying $700. That's awesome. And rent goes up $50 every month. Oh, okay. I mean, still, he was thinking about the $400, right? So after about 8 months, 6, 7 months, he's going, hey, I'm paying, and he was paying me $750 a month. I can get my own apartment with that. I go, you got it. Exactly. That's what we're shooting for. But it wasn't in anger. It wasn't threats. It wasn't any of that stuff. It was just preparing him for the real world. I'm not doing him a favor by letting him slide. I'm hurting him and delaying the process. So you want to be a landlord, and you want to think like that. You want to say, would a landlord just say that way? Would a landlord ask for that? Would a landlord do that? I mean, that's a great way to ask, to check yourself, because we all lend ourselves to being parental. It's hard to help ourselves. I mean, it's just the way it is. And so we have to pull back by asking, would a landlord do that? Does that happen in the real world? And usually it's not. So that's a way to come back from that. Okay? Questions about that? Landlord, from parent to landlord.
Just have one comment, because I've heard somebody talk, talking or whatever, about if you don't need the money and such, that they put the money aside for a wedding present or whatever later, or to help them with down payment later. So if you don't need the money, then you don't want to charge them rent. You're still charging rent. Put the money aside.
That's a great idea. I'm not sure I would let them know I'm doing that.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, they're paying you rent. I didn't need the money. The rent wasn't for me. I didn't need the money. It wasn't about the money. It was about preparing him, okay? Now, what I do with the money is my deal, okay? And I may choose to whatever. And I said, for the next 6 months while you move out, you don't have to pay. This is the first time when we asked him to move out, because he wasn't paying any rent, or he was paying like $200 rent. And I said, listen, in the next 6 months you're going to move out. What I'm going to do is you don't have to pay rent in the next 6 months. Use that $200 to save up for your first and last. Okay? That's all I said. I didn't check. I didn't ask. I didn't care. Okay? Remember, if you want your kids to care more, you have to... Yes. And that's hard to do, but it's so necessary for their sake. You're doing them a favor by caring less. Now, like I said, you can't really care less, so you just can't let them see that you care more than they do. Okay? Because then they'll play you. It's just what it is. So when it came time, I didn't know if he had saved the money. I didn't know what he did with the money. And I didn't care, and it wasn't my problem. It's time to move out, just like we agreed. And he did. And we have a great relationship. I mean, it's good. So he still has way to go. But I'm very confident he's going to find his way and do just fine. But I don't want to delay that by any means. So that's why it's important for me to respond in that way. Anything else?
I was just going to say, we got burned in our early marriage by, and not just kids, but relatives. Being from the South, it's a different model. And we had people, our first go, we're going to stay 2 weeks, and 8 months later they were still there. So I learned a lesson. So what I started doing is any relative that came and asked to stay, and we have had many, I said, well, the rent's $400, and that's all I said. Mm-hmm. What I did is I created another account, savings account. I put $300 away. I figured I needed the $100 to pay for electricity and whatever that they were going to add to it. And then 6 months later, they would say, I'd really like to move out, but I don't have first and last. And I'd say, yes, you do. So I saved that $300 because I didn't want to trust them.
Right. Not a bad strategy. Not bad. Using their money to help them move out, right? A thing I would add to that is that rent's going to be $400 for the next X months, and then we'll reevaluate. Because maybe rent should go up, or maybe, whatever. You don't want to commit yourself to, an open commitment. You want to, for X amount of time, and let's reevaluate. Okay? Yes?
If you are a landlord and you make it clear to your renters of what they can do to the apartment, right?
Yes.
They can paint,
Yes.
they can put nails in the wall. If you have a child that lives at home, in your home, but it looks like there's a homeless person living there,
Okay. Yes.
how do you make sure that the bathroom that they use and the room that they live in is, you can walk in there?
Here's what I say about adult kids' rooms. I don't want anything moving in your room that shouldn't be moving. I don't want anything in your room growing that shouldn't be growing. I don't want anything in your room that's illegal. Short of that, knock yourself out. I'm not going to micromanage it. If you don't need to walk in there. Don't need to walk in there. Keep the door closed. Now, if it's a public bathroom or a shared bathroom, now you got to come up with the program a little bit because other people are using it. So we need to talk about that. Okay, but the days of you making sure that they make their bed and pick up their is over. It's done. I mean, I have one child. It's like, man, I don't know who's going to marry that one. But good luck with that. Good luck with that, because bless her little heart, It's just, I mean, do we have carpet in the room? I have no idea. I haven't seen the carpet for years. I have no idea. But you know what? It's not my problem. And having clothes all over the carpet is not going to hurt the carpet. It's not going to hurt the house. It's not my problem. It's not a battle I want to die on, a hill I want to die on. Let it go. And it's one of those things you let go. I know. It's hard. I know. Because if you push that, you won't be wantable. And accountability, doing the right thing, I mean, the autonomy, they got to be autonomous to do their own room. The landlord's not going to go and go, seriously, you live like this? They're not going to come in your house and your apartment and do that.
Just a little adage, my parents always made us pay rent after a certain amount of time after college graduation. My brother graduates with a master's in biology, figures out that he doesn't want to work in a lab, and because he had to pay rent, started working in retail, nerd scientist, managing a retail clothing department for pennies, hates it, finally ends up in medical school.
Okay.
Well, you know what? That's where he needed to be.
Yeah.
But it was 5 years
to wake up.
Had my parents not said, you need to get out.
Yes.
You're going to pay, and it was market rate rent.
Yes.
So it was not discounted.
Good.
That's what pushed him to
Yes.
it. But he had to go this circuitous route, and
Yes.
it's painful to watch because smart guy, good degrees, the whole bit, but.
It's hard to want more for your children than they want for themselves. Oh, that's hard. Because we want so much for them. The other thing is that we want it in a certain time period, like tomorrow, or 4 years, but they have to do their own time period, and we just got to let and wait, just let them do it and wait. But what we don't want to do is enable, because if you enable, it'll take longer. Trust me, it will take longer, much longer. You want to be fair and reasonable. And pray. Ceasingly.
In some respects, by being what we see as hard on them,
Yes.
that forces them
Yes.
to take the next steps, and we're actually helping.
Absolutely. Being helpful is not always helpful. And not helping can be immensely helpful. Okay? Helping may not always be helpful. Not helping can be immensely helpful. Yes.
I was just going to comment, my mom enabled my brother all his life. Never had a checkbook, never learned to drive.
Didn't need to.
Didn't need to work. And it wasn't, and she would say as he got older, oh, he can't learn these things now. Well,
Yes.
65 years old, Now my mom's passed away. He's moved out. He's found a whole new life.
Yes.
And it's such a sad thing to think many.
It was so delayed, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
we could have done it.
Yes. It's a mother's heart getting in the way. Yeah, it's hard, but it's to do the right thing. If you're parenting and it feels good, chances are you're not doing it right. I'm serious. I'm serious. If it sucks, you're probably right on. It's just the way it is. I'm sorry. It's just that way. All right. One more.
We are promised trials, are we not?
That's right. In this world, you will have trouble. From sugar daddy to banker lender. Now, quick disclosure, I don't even recommend lending your kids money. Okay? But it's better than just doling it out. Let me show you how the real world works for a $1 hamburger. You ready? You get in your car and you drive to McDonald's and you go to window number 1. You tell them what you want, and then what do they want from you? Money. Give them my $1. I go to the second window, and then what do? I wait. Then what happens? I get my burger, right? What do I do after I get my burger? Check the bag.
Yes.
Is it the burger you ordered? Okay? This is what happens in most homes. They go to window number 1. They get their hamburger. They back out and drive away. And then the parents are in window number 2 going, hey, I need $1 here. Right? That's what goes on in homes. If you want to make money for working 40 hours in a week, when do you get that money? At the end of the week. Are you shocked? Surprised? It's normal. It's the real world. Kids get money and then do the chores. Kids get all the benefits and then we pray and hope. And then if it doesn't work, well, let's give them more money. Maybe that'll motivate them. You know, we'll be nicer. We're going to lead by example. Not here. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. And I don't like resenting my kids. When my son came back to live with us, or before he left, I'm going, dang, he takes long showers. Man, he leaves all the lights on. And I'm paying for. And then when he came back, he was paying me $400, $500. I'm going, hey, take a shower, leave the lights on. What do I care? I'm making bank on this. I mean, and seriously, I wasn't resenting him. Because I had a good deal with him, a good arrangement, and he respected me and himself because I wasn't letting him take advantage of me. It's hard to respect somebody when you can take advantage of them. Initially, it's like, oh, they're so sweet and so nice. After a while, man, they're stupid. What the heck's going on here? And there's a lot of complaining about parents, how these kids just don't respect their parents anymore. Well, for good reason. We make them not respect us because we're crazy with how we treat them. We just want to treat them like a normal person, get them ready for the normal world. Now, in there, you can sprinkle some grace, not a problem. But that's not your standard operating procedure. That's not getting them ready. Tough stuff, right? I mean, this is a shift. And you can see the semantics, how we talk, the words we use matter to them. It really does. It really, really matters to them. Yes?
I have a question. How do you negotiate one of the last things you do with your children, a wedding?
For a man, let me talk from a man's standpoint. I don't want to get involved in that. There's so much stuff going on. I'm out of that. How I handle it, I say, look, here's our budget. Here's your money. And what I did, you can have from X to X. Okay? That's your range. I knew it was going to be at X. But they would start with the first X. If I just said, here's X, then we're going to go beyond that. Right? Dad. So let's start that here and get to my number. Okay? And then I don't control. Do whatever you want with that money. Buy a house, elope. I don't care. It's not my problem. Moms, be careful because you can get involved. Hey, it's our money, and why do you have to hand it? Be careful how that works. It's like when you pledge an amount for a wedding, it's lost money in terms of you think you got control. And if you try to, that's fine, but you may have a lousy experience. You know, just either, okay, we'll just do it. It's their money. What are we going to do? I mean, it's just, there's no good way through that. It's hard. Unless you have a child that isn't about autonomy, I just want to do the right thing. Okay, how much money do I get and what do you want me to do? What dress should I wear? Well, that's not good either. Okay? So you just set the limit and let them, and it's a great exercise. I saw it as a great exercise for them to have an amount of money that they had to manage. See how you do with that. Great, because guess what? After you get married, you're going to have some amount of money every month that you're going to have to manage. I mean, here's a great start. Great way to start with that. Other questions? Some closing thoughts real quick, because we're just about out of time. You're doing the very best that you can, and that's all any of us can ask, right? It's the greatest investment you ever do in launching your children. Now, another thing that makes this hard with our kids, if our marriage isn't so hot, then, oh my gosh, that's all I got is my kids. So there's some underlying resistance to them moving on and becoming independent, because that means I'm going to lose my life almost. So what makes it easier is you have a good relationship with your marriage. We'll talk about that next week. That's what we're going to talk about. But that helps a great deal. And sometimes I see why the kids aren't going, because and I've actually had kids in my office tell me I'm afraid to leave because if I leave, they're going to get a divorce. I mean, it was that clear. So that's huge. So the only better investment in your kids is your marriage, in my book. It's the only thing that you'll take to the end of your life. Everything you have, everybody you know, is going to come and go. There is no greater investment. Remember this, if you could be a perfect parent, there still wouldn't be a guarantee, because there was a perfect parent, wasn't there? Who was the perfect parent? God the Father in the garden. And how'd that play out? Not so well, huh? Kids went sideways. Dang it, I hate when that happens. I mean, they had perfect, I mean, there was no peer pressure, other than the devil, but I mean, it was perfect. It was everything, I mean, you couldn't ask for more, and it still didn't work out. So go easy on yourself, because even if you could be perfect, there's no guarantee. Why? Because everybody has free will. And they can make crazy, silly decisions. You have made crazy, silly decisions. God's going, oy vey. Oh my gosh. What are you doing? What are you thinking? Okay? And then finally, most of us, if not all of us, need help at some time or another. Don't waste time asking for it. I've worked with many couples, 10 sessions, we're through this, as opposed to years of fumbling through and trying to make it work. And some of you may have some pretty challenging kids that a seminar like this is not going to embrace or handle. But don't delay on that. I mean, and the longer it is, the longer it takes. The sooner you do it, the quicker you get through it. Just really is that way. Just want to let you know about Turning Point Counseling. I'm just down the street. Harbor and Fullerton is where my location is. We've got about 30, 40 locations. I don't know if you know how we work. We work with churches. Been doing it for 32 years. We partner with churches. We have an office at a church satellite office, and that's where our therapists go. So it makes it easy for the people at the church, and it's a nice outreach for the community. So I just wanted you to be aware of that too. All right. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.